Perhaps that's why trying to predict the future of the media can bring the judgment of history crashing down on your head. Just like the BBC's chief engineer in the 1920s, who solemnly declared that television had reached the limit of what was technically possible. Indeed, when its inventor, John Logie Baird, died, his biographer was moved to comment that the BBC, which had failed to acknowledge his existence, had at last announced his passing. So my point is, I'm fully aware that future gazing can be bad for your reputation. But let me, if you'll allow me, run the risk. We are living in the internet age, but we have only just begun. By 2025, most people in the UK are likely to get their television programmes over the internet. By 2030, most likely everyone will. The TV aerial will have gone the way of Alistair Cook's typewriter. To be sure, technological change is uneven. Uneven between different parts of the world, between different age groups, between different communities. And it is indeed going at different speeds, sometimes much slower than expected. On the one hand, smartphone use is revolutionising the news, particularly for younger people. On the other, television bulletins and radio programmes are how millions of people prefer to get the news, and it will be for years to come. So for any news organisation, but particularly for the BBC, these two trends present a particularly and singularly difficult challenge. How do we keep everyone informed? How do we best serve traditional media habits while anticipating new ones so that everyone can access the real story? In January, as I said, the BBC published the first part of a report on the future of news. It set out a range of views about what these changes might mean for news organisations in the decade ahead. And rather than speak for it, or for the people who informed our report, I thought you'd probably rather hear from them. So I'm going to run this film, but with this particular health warning, that I ran a film at a conference about 3 weeks ago, and when the film spooled, it turned out to be a rather exciting promo for a Scandi noir thriller. And the difficult thing was that, firstly, it was the wrong film, which was embarrassing, and then, of course, what was worse was that the audience rather wished it had continued. So, forgive me, you're not going to get that, but I hope you will get something on the future of news. I hope you see that what the report tried to do was, both in substance and tone, capture, I guess, both the sense of excitement that I suppose all of us in this room have about what's happening in journalism, but also the scale of the questions that are yet to be answered. And one of the points, but only one of the points that the report made, was that while there is a clear case for the enormous benefits of these digital changes, and there are many, there's also a real issue around growing information inequality. Part of this is simply the fact that millions of people are online and millions of people are not. But there is, of course, more to it. In many ways, the internet age is an uneven age. We see in places, as a result, or at least in part as a result, a sagging enthusiasm for democracy, real polarisation of opinion, disengagement from society, and in some ways a crisis of citizenship. And of course, the internet has ripped a hole in the business model of many great news organisations. The result is that vast swathes of modern life are increasingly unreported or underreported. And these problems are not the fault of the news media, but it is journalism, particularly public service journalism, that must help address these problems, that it must have a responsibility to do that.